What's up, Zox fam? We're back with some more Etheria Restart. We're going to be getting into an overview of the Scarlet Iron Veil Helkid. And I think it's safe to say that there are many different units that exist in this game that have really insane kits. But Helkid not only has an insane kit, but it's also one of a kind in Etheria Restart at the recording of this video. Now, when we're looking at what kind of unit Helkid is, he is a support DPS. If we dive into his kit and what he's bringing to the table, his first skill is going to be called Shadow Briar. Basically, he's going to crystallize several dark spikes on his shoulder and shoot them at the target, dealing 240% damage to a single enemy with a 50% chance of inflicting a one-turn stun. The other thing that he gets with this is that the chance increases by 100% when Helkid has Shroud Barrier. You then have something called Impenetrable. When Helkid has Shroud Barrier, 45% of damage is converted into his Shroud Barrier. Now, what exactly is this Shroud Barrier? It absorbs an equal amount of damage and grants immunity against debuffs for its duration. The thing about Shroud Barrier, just to make this simple to understand, it is basically a massive shield that scales off of damage, and then on top of that, it has built-in immunity to all debuffs. Yes, I said it. He cannot be debuffed, not only himself, but also any of his allies that are under his Shroud Barrier. Now, when we go to the skill 2, which is Crystal Strike, Helkid consolidates a giant dark spike that instantly pierces the ground beneath the target's feet, dealing 240% damage to all enemies. There is a 100% chance to inflict a 2-turn attack break, and Helkid's damage increases by an additional 65% with Shroud Barrier. The last skill, which is the infamous Shroud Barrier, a Shroud Barrier appears behind Helkid, unleashing an anima torrent that crystallizes into countless spikes raining down from above, dealing 3 hits of 110% damage to all enemies. It applies Shroud Barrier equal to 280% of own attack to all allies. So not only is Shroud Barrier a ability that can deal damage and it AoEs and hits targets 3 times, but then it is massively scaling off of the attack of Helkid, and this applies to your entire party. Now, as far as module recommendations, I would definitely recommend the Onslaught set, which at max is going to be giving you a 45% attack increase. And once you start to get some more sets and access to things like Harvest, this is also going to be giving you an attack increase of 10%. And when attacking, if the target's HP is above 50%, additionally ignores 30% of their defense. And then when you're shifting into endgame, I definitely recommend the Fury Edge. This is a really nice set for a little nice topping off on the crit rate, which is going to be at 12%, and the crit damage at plus 20%. Now, if you want Helkid to be an opener for you as a support, then you definitely will have to consider sets like the Swift Rush, which will be giving you an opportunity to utilize some additional speed to be able to open or go before other characters. But at that point, you will have to consciously decide on your speed tuning and make adjustments accordingly to the composition that you're utilizing. Now, with that, I also would say as far as the main stat values you want to actually focus would definitely be attack percent, and attack percent. Now, if you are looking to land more of the debuffs for this character, then you would take one of these attack percents off, and then I would recommend going for effect accuracy. Now, as far as skill prioritization, if you want to work in more of the supportive nature of Helkid first, then I would definitely recommend the skill 3 first. With the skill 3 in the first major node, it's going to increase the shield of Shroud Barrier to 260% attack. In the next one, it increases the damage multiplier to 110%. And then on the next one after, it increases the shield of Shroud Barrier to 280% attack. And the very last one is going to be reducing skill cooldown by 1 turn. If you are trying to work in a little bit more damage and actually operating on the more debuff side, then you would either be focusing your skill 2 or your skill 1 a little bit more. But I would definitely say that it would still be between skill 2 and skill 3, where skill 2 is going to be providing you an increased damage multiplier of 240%. Then when the character has Shroud Barrier, it is going to increase the damage dealt by this skill to 65%. On top of that, afterwards, you then increase the chances of inflicting your attack down to 100%. And then after that, you also reduce the skill cooldown by 1 turn. And then for the skill 1, you will have the increased damage multiplier in the first major node to 220%. The one after that will then increase the chance of the characters being stunned by this ability to 50%. Then you will increase the damage multiplier to 240% on the next node. And the very last node is going to increase the percentage of additional damage added by Shrouded Barrier to 45%. Now, as far as shell recommendations, in the early game, you definitely will be picking up Red Comet. I mean, Red Comet's not that great, but when you're first starting out, before the owner takes action, it increases their attack by 400 for 1 turn. As you start progressing, the next one you're actually going to be picking up is actually on Apate, which is going to be Tamemo Doji, which before the owner takes action increases their attack by 600 for 2 turns. And then the one after that you're going to be picking up is actually going to be coming from Phoebian, which is going to be the Twilight Knight. So before the owner takes action, deals 170% damage to the enemy with the lowest HP percentage and reduces their defense by an additional 50% for this turn. Now, this is obviously a pretty big deal when you're talking about the fact that you're able to not only AoE, but that damage on top of the fact that you didn't have the attack break, you're able to deal more damage to whatever target you end up hitting, which more than likely you probably will finish off. One of the ones that you actually can pick up here is going to be Crossroads. So before the owner takes action, increases their attack by 800 for 2 turns and additionally applies a turn of Life Leech, which can be really nice for extra sustain under the shield. Now, as far as my shell recommendation for in-game for Helkid, I would definitely recommend the Count. Now, the Count is going to have before the owner takes action, increases their attack by 40% for 2 turns, and additionally applies a 3 turn of Life Leech. This is going to be great because this is not only going to be double dipping, it's going to be giving you more damage being dealt when you use your Shroud Barrier, but it's also going to be allowing you to scale the shield value because it scales off of attack. And then on top of that, you gain the 3 turns of Life Leech, which is going to make it to where you're able to restore health in those windows where you either don't have Shroud Barrier if it gets dispelled, or if you again get hit really hard, just to kind of give yourself some cushion until you're able to get things going again. Now, shifting into our overall pros and cons, starting out with the pros, I think one of the biggest pros that Helkid has is the fact that he has a shield with built-in immunity. This makes him the only character with this ability in this game, which honestly skyrockets his value. This is something that can be quite oppressive in any game mode, in PvE or PvP, just simply because the shield is so massive, but this allows him to still be built like a DPS, but not necessarily having to worry about any of the things that a DPS would be suffering from, which would be lack of tank or not a lot of HP, because the shield makes up for that. And then the fact that he's able to basically be immune to all debuffs makes it to where you really honestly are able to control the fight. This ultimately makes him one of the hardest characters to go up against in this game, and I definitely would say for him to not be a light and dark character, that is saying a lot. Now, of course, with that, you also then have the opportunity of stunning and then getting that attack break, which can be pretty massive for making sure that your shield and the damage value that's coming into hitting that shield doesn't really chip it. And so this means that you're always going to have more value coming from the Shroud Barrier's bulkiness than it being diminished by someone hitting it. Now, as far as cons, just like every unit, this guy has his weaknesses. There are some units in this game that can absolutely just simply put dispel his shield. And this will make it to where you now are vulnerable, and considering that he is technically still built like a DPS, yes, he can definitely get wrecked. But I think that this is under the premise that this is one of the only weaknesses that he really suffers from. And even when we're talking about the disadvantages that some characters will face when even talking about attribute disadvantage, because Helkid's bulkiness is so vast, it even makes him one of those characters that almost seems like he's immune to even attribute disadvantage. So I will say, for that to be the only con to this character, it's not really that bad. That's going to be that with the Scarlet Iron Veil Helkid. I hope that this video was able to help you with not only understanding the value, but also some of the things that you could do with this character. Now, there still are infinite possibilities of how you can go about building this character, but this is just a general basis to start from to give you a little bit of an idea of what you could essentially do. So once again, guys, I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and as well as join the Discord so that you don't miss out on anything Etheria Restart. Stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.